Hello and welcome to Odds on Champions League match day 6. Great games we have ahead of us on Tuesday. Inter Milan Liverpool, for instance, is the one standing out with two European champions, and we have Tom Rennie, we have Ronan Murphy. Hello guys, to analyze with us live this video, all these good games, and of course ask them any question, any doubts you have about the Champions League or the live. And don't forget to press the like if you enjoy our videos or subscribe to our channel. Let's go on, guys. Let's go and analyze everything now. So we have two early kickoffs, but this time we have one early kickoff and one early kickoff. So we are going to start with the early kickoff in Almaty, Kairat Olympiacos. This is at 4:30 Central European time, so might be good if you are still in the office to watch it online, to play some bet in this really interesting game. Two teams going out of the Champions League. Kairat only 1 point. Debutant was against Paphos, and remember that they played that game against 10 men and they couldn't even beat Paphos. That's why Olympiacos have these really low odds, only 1.5. They lost to Real Madrid 3-4. They played some good games, especially going forward, but they are terrible, Tom, when it comes to defending these Olympiacos.
They are, but they're playing against a team who haven't played since their last Champions League round, who have been essentially on their end-of-season break for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So they're not going to be sharp. They're nowhere near good enough to play in the Champions League. And if you are struggling in the Champions League, like Olympiacos occasionally have, it's a perfect game for you. I just think it's so difficult to ask any team on the end of season or mid-season or winter break or whatever it is, depending on the club, to then come back to full force in the Champions League. Irrespective of the quality of the squad that you've got, Kairat have been doing nothing, kicking their heels for 2.5 weeks. That's going to have a massive impact here. And look, Olympiacos are a team that have got defensive deficiencies, and we've seen in the Champions League so far are capable of giving a team a bloody nose, like we saw against Real Madrid, but then finding ways to lose because they do struggle defensively. But of course, Real Madrid, very good going forward, obviously. Not easy to defend against Kylian Mbappe, I understand that. But look, they're far too good for this opponent in this scenario, and they've got some very good players. I always like Daniel Podence. I think he's a very good player, was pivotal in the Conference League run a couple of seasons ago. And I think that I'm just struggling to see how Kairat Almaty are going to land a glove when they've done nothing for 2.5 weeks. So you go for the Olympiacos win here at 1.52. I'm going to bet on plenty of Olympiacos goals. They've shown they can score goals both domestically and in the Champions League this season. 3 against Real Madrid scored is not to be sniffed at. A minus 1.5 handicap is 2.25. And then, I love a group bet. They cover a lot of mistakes, the group bets. And I just can't see Kairat scoring. So 1-0, 2-0, 3-0 bundled together is 2.75. It's going to be a comfortable Olympiacos victory because the odds are so stacked against the home team.
Some weather news. Actually, it's snowing in Almaty, and Olympiacos are kind of lucky because on Tuesday is said to be -4 Celsius. On Wednesday, -18. So they are lucky that this game is going to be played on Tuesday and not on Wednesday, Ronan.
They're also lucky it's not going to be played in Almaty because the conditions are too bad. So it's going to be played in Astana in the stadium that's been used to host European finals before, because obviously they have under-soil heating, bigger stadium, and with that weather report that we're hearing, -14, -18 in Almaty during the week, it looks like it's going to be played in Astana. So that
why do they do this? It's part of football. Play 15.
Yeah, well, like Tom said, I think these players have been on the beach for 2 weeks, so going back to the snow might be a bit of a struggle for them. But I think that might be maybe the bad weather in Kazakhstan, the really cold weather we're having at the moment, could give Kairat somewhat of a chance. So I'm not going to say that Olympiacos are going to win. I'm going to disagree with Tom here. I think this is going to be a terrible game. This match that you said, Edu, you could watch it work. maybe work might be more interesting if you're in the office still at 3:30 or 4:30, whatever time it's on. Maybe if the boss comes, open back up the Excel spreadsheet, it might be more interesting. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, Olympiacos on the road, they have not been good. 6-1 to Barcelona, they lost 2-0 to Arsenal so far in the Champions League. Kairat have been great at home in the Champions League because they entered in the first qualifying round, if you remember. Won 3-0 in the first, or 2-0 in the first round, 3-0 in the second round. Then they drew 0-0 in the playoff with Celtic at home, so they can get a result at home. I know they're not technically at home in this one, but it will be very difficult. So the smart bet under 5 stars for this one is looking at under 3.5 goals. And if it's going to be a snow game, a really cold game, like the matches we say when we talk about 𝐵𝗲𝗀, under 3.5 goals could be a good option at 143. But I'm going to go even further, say maybe, just maybe because of the weather conditions. I know Kairat are missing a very crucial player that we have in the comments who's suspended, the upcoming Chelsea signing, but double chance for Kairat, maybe 263. Why not?
L'Equipe is telling us Sapaev suspended. The Almaty Stadium is covered. It's not going to be open plate, but the weather forecast in Astana tomorrow is minus 26. The max are minus 16. How can be this cold in this planet? Oh my God, the poor guys from Olympiacos going from the sunny Greece to this weather. Well, they still have to play there. Both teams to score for 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐵𝗿𝗀 +2 for 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐵𝗿𝗀, also for the home team. I think this could be a good option indeed. And the early kickoff in Munich. This is a good game, actually. Bayern Munich Sporting drew in the derby. They had a top game at the weekend against Benfica. They are in the top 8 with 10 points, doing a great Champions League, beating Bruges, Kairat, and Olympique Marseille, and away drew with Juve, but of course, it's almost one-sided. Ronan, this one with these odds. Bayern Munich had a tough week in Germany, but they beat Berlin away. They beat Stuttgart away. It looks like the defeat against Arsenal, it didn't affect them.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of thing that we see now with the new Champions League format. The defeat to Arsenal didn't affect them in the table, really. They're still third in the table with 12 points. So this extended Champions League, we still have another 2 match days after this one. Even though it's match day 6 now, we're used to kind of the group stage finishing at this stage, but with the league phase, we still have another couple of games to go. Bayern, they just got back into their usual routine. They continued their usual routine in the Bundesliga. They broke the record for the most consecutive games that we mentioned in the Bundesliga show, the most consecutive games with 2 or more goals in a match at the weekend, and then racked up loads of goals again. Harry Kane, he got another one of his multi-goal games because he's great at doing that in the Bundesliga. They have continued to score goals in the Champions League too. The only one they didn't score 2 or more goals was that defeat against Arsenal. They scored 3 against Chelsea. They scored 5 against Pafos. They scored 4 against Brugge. They are a team that scores goals against everybody. They should score goals against Sporting Portugal. The smart bet is going for under 3.5 total goals at 1.91 odds. So I'm going to say no smart bet. This time, the robots are wrong. I'm going to go for over 3.5 total goals at 2. And then, because Bayern Munich, they score 2 or more goals in every game, why not again? And why not against Portuguese opposition at home? Bayern Munich over 2.5 goals themselves is 185.
And of course, we see Harry Kane already as a top bet for this game. He actually rested some minutes recently, Tom. So fit and rested, go for Harry Kane always.
Oh, yeah. Kane anytime at 1.57 is a safe bet most weeks. It's not going to earn you much money, but if you combine it with several other things, it will bump up a 3-1 to a 5-1, depending on what else you're betting on. Look, Ronan's the expert when it comes to the Bundesliga, so I'm not going to be able to bet him in analysis, but I think he's absolutely right for what it's worth, that Bayern are always worth 1, always worth 2, and so look at the various bets that bring you in on Bayern scoring at least 2. Bayern win over 3.5 goals. 2.38 is the top tip from me. They're a fabulous team. They're a fabulous team who play excellent football, who rotate players, positions. Their offense is great. The midfield is so energetic but movable. Your only issue is that they do concede with some regularity consolation goals. There's always a little soft goal in there somewhere, like the St. Pauli game or Union Berlin, or even in the Freiburg game where they scored 6, conceded 2. Like, there's always a little mistake in there somewhere. The plan is for Vincent Kompany's team to outscore you. And when you've got Serge Gnabry and you've got Elise and Harry Kane, as we mentioned, you're going to pretty much outscore everybody. I can only see maybe 3 teams in Europe being able to beat Bayern this season, and one of them have beaten Bayern this season in Arsenal in the last round. So they're going to go very close to winning this whole competition. They're obviously going to win the Bundesliga, and they're fantastic. It's always difficult to assess any Portuguese side in Europe because watching Portuguese football is like watching football on 0.7 speed, and so they all play together, and it's like, okay, it's good this, but what about when they come up against someone really good? And the really good players tend to sign for Man United. And then after that, you sort of like, what's left? But I do think Suarez is very good. I do think the midfield looks very, very Premier League-like, almost like Tottenham's midfield, like 2 deep-lying, tackle first and pass the ball sideways midfielders. They're a very solid team, but I think this is far too much of a step up for any team from Portugal to go away to Bayern and win. So, as mentioned already, look for Bayern to score at least 2, Kane to score, Bayern to win 2-1, 3-1 or 4-1. Really like that one at 4. So both teams to score, but Bayern win.
Okay, Bayern Munich half-time, full-time. We have Desta telling us Bayern and Kane over 2.5 goals as well. Luis Diaz, anytime goal scorer, and Bayern to win. Some other options to raise a little bit the odds for Bayern Munich. Let's look for better odds and more challenging games. The next one is interesting one, Monaco. Galatasaray 2.3 for Monaco to win 6 points. Galatasaray 9, but Monaco are in poor form in Ligue 1. Recently, they've only beaten PSG, actually, because they lost again on Friday in Brest. And in this Champions League, it's a bit patchy because Tottenham or City, for instance, weren't unable to win in the Louis II. But also they drew with Paphos and Galatasaray. Tom relying on Osimhen. He was not available against Royal Union Saint-Gilloise, and they lost. It was a big surprise, and we saw him scoring a big goal, a beautiful goal this weekend.
Yeah, look, I think when you've got a player of that sort of quality, then the team's obviously going to be around him. And I don't think it's a great criticism of anyone else at Galatasaray. They're relying on Osimhen. He is one of the best strikers in European football, and it's a tragedy, really, that he's spending the peak years of his career in a subpar league that is where you retire before you retire further to go to Saudi Arabia or America. So it's a shame to see him there, and hopefully he'll get out of Turkey as soon as possible. I'm sure he's very happy there, but no one's going to care about his career if that continues. In terms of Monaco, they are tough to assess because the only game I've watched them play for quite a long time beyond the Champions League was the Paris Saint-Germain game. Because I'd heard they'd scored, Minamino had scored, so I put it on, and I thought they played really, really well. And when 𝐶𝐿𝐭'𝐬, former West Ham player, got sent off, the captain, you thought they'll crumble, they're going to fall apart. But it was great stoic defending, and it was an excellent defensive performance. It featured a Paul Pogba cameo. So that does sort of manipulate me here to think Monaco may be better than there are, because the form, as you mentioned, beyond that victory over Paris Saint-Germain is pretty poor. And by all accounts, as you mentioned, they weren't particularly good at the weekend. But they've got players I like. I like Minamino. I always thought he was a Premier League quality player that went to the wrong team to get the minutes that he would have wanted. Flo Balogun, I think he's a player that if he could score 15 goals a season, I'd change my mind on him. I think he's got pacing behind. I think he's someone who can score 7 to 10. But I think, is he a special player? Is he someone that takes every second chance? I think he's someone that takes every fourth chance. His average suggests that, and I think that's kind of the difference between Monaco challenging for Liga this season and not. But look, I do think that Salisu's good, Kehra's good. I think they've got a reasonably solid defense. I think they've got attacking options that will give them favourable chance in this game. And as we mentioned, Osimhen fit. Beyond him being available, I struggle to see anything other than a one-paced Galatasaray side. So what I see is a pretty ugly game. What I see is a game that screams pretty much close to 0-0. And what I see is maybe one goal in it. So one goal the home team is 11. One goal the away team is 13. I would just shade for Monaco as the home team. Monaco at under 3.5 goals in the game. A very generous 3.5. Covers a lot of potential scorelines that. To be more brave, Monaco went under 2.5 goals, 6.5, 1-0 win, 1-0 defeat in their last two. Yeah, I think it's going to be quite tight, this, and go for a winner by exactly one either way.
Well, our smart bet is going for Galatasaray. Actually, double chance is 1.7. Even Galatasaray to win is 3.0 around. Ronan, how do you see it?
Well, if Tom has gone for 1x2, if he's gone for 1-2 in there, I'm going to say it's going to be a draw at 4, because that's inevitable coming here. Because Monaco have 3 draws so far in the Champions League. They've drawn against Man City and Tottenham at home, so they're both kind of reasonable results. I wouldn't be surprised, like Tom said, if it is a low-scoring match. And Galatasaray are impossible to predict whether they're going to win or lose in the Champions League so far. Their form is absolutely wild. They lost 4-1 to Frankfurt, then they went and beat Liverpool, they beat Ajax 3-0, and then they went and lost to Union Saint-Gilloise. So their form is just all over the place. It is impossible to predict who they're going to beat, who they're going to lose to, regardless of the quality of opposition. But the thing is, when you're predicting a kind of a low-scoring game, it is the big players that make a difference. It is the big player that Tom has spoken so much about. Victor Osimhen, they played the full 90 minutes at the weekend against Samsunspor. He scored twice, including that great goal you mentioned. He has 11 goals in 14 appearances this season in all competitions. But in the Champions League, that's even better. 6 goals in 3 appearances. Scored in each of the Champions League games he's played so far. So if there is someone that's going to make a difference in this match, it will be Victor Osimhen. And he, at an anytime goal score, is 2.25.
Looks like we like Osimhen. In the show, Osimhen to score and both teams to score. For instance, someone is telling us it's a pity also that he is not going to be in the World Cup. Next game is also a challenging one. Atalanta, Chelsea, because Chelsea struggle when they are playing away. Also in the Champions League, they couldn't beat Karabakh. They lost in Munich, and we've seen it also in the Premier League recently with Leeds and Bournemouth. Some good performances as the one against Barcelona or Arsenal, but then, away more doubts. And this Atalanta with Raffaele Palladino had improved, or we could say without Juric, but at the weekend, they lost to Verona. I don't know if you saw the images, Ronan, but I couldn't see the game, the players, the ball, or nothing. It was like someone was smoking a big cigar in front of the camera. But yeah, they lost indeed in Verona, a team without a win this season. But they are doing a good Champions League, Atalanta, much better than in Serie A, actually.
Yeah, their scene kind of remind me a bit of Ireland versus Bosnia in the Euro playoffs, maybe 9 years ago. Was it 10 years ago? Yeah, so that's a long time since Ireland have been at a major tournament. So yeah, it was bringing back happy memories maybe for me. But I'm not sure that Atalanta will have too many happy memories of the weekend. But yeah, this team, they have been decent enough at home, but not that impressive in the Champions League. They've kind of struggled to beat Bruges. They picked up 3 points. They only drew with Slavia Prague. So you have to kind of look at Chelsea to win here. The odds 2.18 don't look too bad, but Chelsea on the road, they haven't been great either because they lost to the Bayern Munich. I suppose everybody loses in Munich, but then they could only draw with Karabakh, which was not a good result for them. This team are meant to be the world champions, but we're not kind of seeing it at times this season. I think maybe because their pre-season was so long, or their postseason last season was so long, maybe we're kind of seeing the kind of gaps in the gigantic squad that maybe some of these fringe players aren't good enough to be regular players. And I know Tom has mentioned before that he isn't the biggest fan of some of the players that Chelsea have on the books, and no doubt he'll list them off when he talks about them. But this Chelsea team, they should have enough to beat Atlanta. They should have enough maybe to beat Atlanta early or score against Atlanta early, because they've scored 50% of their Champions League goals so far between the 16th and 30th minute. They're averaging 1.6 first half goals per game in the Champions League this season. And Atalanta have yet to score a goal in the first half of the Champions League this season. They have not scored once in the first half of the Champions League this season. So Chelsea to score first looks pretty good at 173. And then even better than that, Chelsea to win the first half at 265. Because if Atlanta can't score in the first half and Chelsea can, that kind of speaks to Chelsea win the first half.
Well, both are level on points with 10 in this Champions League. Tom, someone was saying that this game screams draw.
Oh, yeah, big time. Big time screams draw. This is maybe the safest draw of all the games we've got. I mean, look, let's start with Chelsea. Just because I like to list the names of the players, not really. But I do think that I do think that they've got a lot of potential, this Chelsea squad. And we've seen it when they really pull it together. This is a fantastic side. When they've got 𝐬𝐭𝐴, when they've got Enzo, when the midfield's working together. If Romeo Lavia was ever fit, that's a great midfield. If they can get 𝐬𝐭𝐼 working, I think we're some weeks away from seeing 𝐬𝐼 anywhere near his best. They've got a potential world-class player in their team. And we've seen moments of brilliance from the likes of 𝗵𝗲𝗏 and Neto, one or two others. But they are inconsistent offensively because all these players are so young. They can't get a run of fitness from 𝗛𝗏, who's injured again, which means the preferred front pairing that Maresca would have wanted is not quite there. And defensively, I mean, the Leeds game last week was horrendous. Like, Tosin is nowhere near good enough to play for Chelsea, but because he's one of the only players over 25, he plays to add quote-unquote experience, but his experience is of being crap, and so I'm not sure that's helpful for Chelsea. If they'd have had Levi Colwill this season, what a loss he has been across the campaign. But I think it just leaves you with a bunch of inexperienced, error-prone players, and Chelsea just cannot get consistency because of that. I'd throw the goalkeeper into that mix as well. So it's hard to predict what you're going to get with Chelsea, and Ronan mentioned it, the away form has been pretty poor. I was quite high on the Burnley win a few weeks ago, actually, because I thought winning that game without playing well was quite a positive, considering they're also winning home games, beating Barcelona after that, and getting that good draw against Chelsea with 10. But they're on a wobble at the moment, and I think Maresca's trying to rotate a squad that's really got a good team, and it's not a particularly strong squad. In terms of Atalanta, I've not seen a great deal of them under Palladino as yet. I know they were absolutely awful before the previous manager was sacked. I'm hearing good things about the fitness and form of 𝐿𝐵𝐴, who's been pretty much injured off and on for 8 months at a time for the best part of the last 4 years. So pleased to hear he's been doing well again. I've always liked Ademola Lookman, but I know he's desperate to get out of Atalanta and go somewhere else. So whether that's affected his form, I don't know. And it's funny, like, I catch up with Atalanta and I think, oh, wow, good result against Frankfurt. And, well, they scored 4 against Genoa. Amazing. I hadn't seen the highlights from this weekend yet, but 3-1 defeat to Verona is wild. So I think the issue is here with a new manager, with a new shape, with a bunch of moody players. It's hard to assess exactly what you're going to get, but I do expect them to be in the game all the way through. So draw at 3.7 because of deficiencies for both teams seems about right. I'm also scarred by Chelsea's 2-2 draw a few weeks ago against Qarabağ as well, when I was so confident of victory. But I do think Atalanta, with wind in their sails in the first 45, can certainly win that half. So Atalanta to win either half at 2.1, I thought was quite nice. These are two teams I have absolutely no confidence in, as you can tell.
The over-under for Chelsea players listed by Tom was 10. If anyone's keeping track, 10 players is how much he listed there.
Caicedo is playing, no? Someone is asking.
I would say so, but that'd be the 11th player, so I can't say.
You already mentioned him.
Oh, he's fit. He's fit. Yeah, he's fine then. He's fine. Yeah, he's suspended in the league. He's fine.
Okay, Caicedo. Reece James, well, Atalanta inconsistent, Chelsea inconsistent. Indeed, really difficult to predict, although the bookies place Chelsea as favorites. And here you have your Asian handicap game, Barcelona, Eintracht Frankfurt, with Frankfurt horrible recently, conceding so many goals, 6 last week in Leipzig, but in really, really poor form in the Bundesliga. Also in the Champions League, 14 goals conceded in these 5 games. And with Barcelona completely recovered now with Rafinha, with Pedri, the team is working way better. Even Ferran Torres is scoring. He looks like the Lewandowski in the good years, Tom. The good old Barcelona, unfortunately, is back.
For you, yes. The rest of us don't care, but sure. Look, I think that you laid it out there. This is an Eintracht Frankfurt team that can't defend. They've not been able to defend all season. They continue to struggle to defend. I think that they need to find a way to stiffen up Koch at the back, but also the other, that was gratuitous. But I think all the defenders they're continually exposed, and they've gone with this kind of 3-4 formation. They try this mid-low block. It doesn't seem to work. They tried to attack. It doesn't seem to work. They've got some good forwards. I think 𝐸𝗏𝗏 is really good. And I think, having the experience of someone like 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜 at times can help. But to utilize that experience, you've got to be in the game. And if you're 3-0 down, you're not in the game. So there's no point to have these players with sort of know-how. Don't want to be amazing on the break for somebody if you were trying to score a winner at 0-0 in the 80th minute. West Ham could have done with him yesterday. But in the end, at 3-0 down in so many games, 2-0 down in so many games, conceding so many goals, it has to be a kind of end-to-end 3-4 victory for Frankfurt to get something from it, which is great. This could provide us with some brilliant entertainment, this. And maybe with the ridiculous high line Barcelona have, Frankfurt will score a couple of goals. The trouble is Barca will score 6. I don't know. Your point on Barca is well taken. The only issue is how much, if at all, they rotate from the team they've been currently playing. You're obviously going to see Rafinha sort of bled in slowly, considering he's been out for such a long time. If they're going to have a great campaign, Rafinha's got to play a lot of games. Same with Lewandowski at his age as well. You'd make the replacement for maybe a game like this to have him fit for the league at the weekend because they're so favoured to win this game. So heavy rotation with my only doubt about a big Barcelona win. But what you can see here is goals, goals, goals. Wouldn't be stunned to see goals at both ends. I would certainly be looking at the over here, over 2.5, over 3.5, both teams to score. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Minus 2.5, first handicap worth any money for Barca is 2.1. Barca win both halves, 2.1 as well. First decent scoreline with some money on it is 3-0 at 8. I can see it being more likely to be 3-1 than 3-0 now I'm mulling this over. But certainly goals at both ends and at least 3 goals in it. I think it should be fun.
I would say, especially in the first half, recently Barcelona conceding first and then running riot and then resting Pedri or Rafinha. And these teams have some history, Ronan. They met in the Europa League some years ago when Frankfurt won the competition, and it was shameful for Barcelona because the stadium was full of German supporters. This is not going to happen, of course, this time on Tuesday.
No, I don't think there's the same confidence from the Frankfurt supporters this time around. I think they kind of felt there was something special in there, and they are fans who travel en masse to away games, but I don't think we'll see the same sort of scenes, and we definitely won't see the same result here on Tuesday evening. 19 for Frankfurt, if we're looking closely at the screen. Yeah, 19. That seems crazy for Frankfurt against anybody, but if you've looked at the way they're defending, it's a cock-up after cock-up, as Tom would say. But yeah, this is a team that cannot defend. And when their main attack is not playing, they're not getting the 6 goals they need to win 6-4. So they're losing 4-1 instead. They're having 6-0 at the weekend. This is the team who concedes so many goals. Barcelona are a team who scores so many goals. So everywhere is kind of the goal market in this one. Barcelona has scored 3 or more goals in their last 3 games. They have 7 goals they've scored 3 or more goals in 7 of their last 8 games. I should say the only one they haven't is the defeat to Chelsea. Frankfurt conceded 6 to Leipzig at the weekend. They lost 3-0 at home to Atalanta in their previous Champions League game. Barcelona over 2.5 goals themselves is only 153. So the bookies think that there is going to be a mountain of goals in this one. Total goals to get to even 2, 198 actually. You have to go for total goals over 4 to get to that stage. So this has to be goals. Tom listed out a few options that we could look at, but you said, Edu, that Ferran Torres is playing a bit like Lewandowski at the moment. He scored twice at the weekend. He has 11 goals and 15 in La Liga. He has 2 and 4 in the Champions League. If he starts, he could be a great option as an anytime goal scorer. So Ferran anytime goal scorer, 2.12.
Always angry, Ferran Torres, no matter if he scores, if he's millionaire, young, healthy, whatever, but it looks like life is not with him. This is going to be a massacre. Barcelona -3. I completely agree. Barcelona to win both halves. 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐴'. Well, there is no value here. Of course, the odds are very low. Barcelona to win 5-1. We all agree that we should see a lot of goals at Camp Nou. First game, if I'm not wrong, actually, at the Camp Nou in the Champions League, by the way. Next one, the best game we have, in my opinion, on Tuesday, Inter Milan, Liverpool. Everyone is talking about Mo Salah in the Premier League after his words in the draw at Elland Road, another game without playing on the bench. Liverpool are not working, as we all know. A lot of eyes on Arne Slot, but it looks like everyone agrees on the bad timing of the words of Mo Salah. It's only one win in the last 6 games for Liverpool, only beating West Ham, and this is a very tough stadium. Inter won comfortably against Como, and they have a problem this season. The big games, Ronan, they've lost them all. Inter, including in the Champions League, Atletico de Madrid, if we can consider this one a big game. So they have to win also, both of them actually, to be in the top 8.
Yeah, I think these are teams maybe that are on the decline, maybe from where they want for Liverpool, especially. But if you look at Liverpool last season in the Champions League, they were kind of leading the league phase, and look at where they are now. They can kind of their avenue maybe to get in through the playoffs, but I think they'll look themselves and see that, well, that's how PSG went on and won it. So maybe there is some sort of optimism, but it's hard to find any optimism around Liverpool at the moment. And everyone's kind of talking about how lucky that Norwegian reporter was that Mo Salah came his way, because how did you get kind of an exclusive like that? It wasn't one of the big name journalists that would have been there at the match, and Mo just wanted to get something off his chest, and the first guy you saw was getting every bit of it, and Arne Slot was getting every bit of it too. So yeah, there's just so much kind of going on and off the field at Liverpool at the moment that it seems hard to trust them to win any match, even an Inter Milan team who kind of haven't been as strong at home in Europe as they have been before. But I suppose their form domestically has been pretty good, 3 wins in a row. Liverpool's form in everything has been terrible, so Liverpool are hard to trust here. So this is the one that I'm kind of want to stay away from predicting who's going to win this one, because maybe Liverpool could bounce back from this. Maybe the players that aren't Mo Salah will have a point to prove, because I'm not sure Mo Salah is going to be starting this one. Maybe everyone else will have a point to prove, because there are lots of points to prove. There are so many players underperforming at Liverpool at the moment that a lot of players need to step up. Salah seems to be taking the weight on his own shoulders, but everybody else needs to carry this load at the moment. The only thing is, this could lead to an entertaining open-ended game. Three of Inter's last 4 games have had 3 or more total goals. Liverpool concede goals for fun at this time. The way 𝐿𝐴naté and Van Dijk are playing at the moment, it's not really working. Van Dijk, I think he backs off players a bit more than he used to. Even the aura isn't carrying him the way it used to be. 𝐿𝐴naté is such an instinctive defender that it doesn't really work with the way when Van Dijk was at his peak. It kind of worked for 𝐿𝐴naté to be that instinctive player, but when Van Dijk kind of also on the decline, it's not really working for 𝐿𝐴naté. And he also got thrown under the bus by the manager at the weekend, so he will not be full of confidence going into this one. So that should lead to goals as well. Liverpool have conceded 14 goals in their last 6 games. Both teams to score, yes, looks great in this one at 157. But I think, yeah, just go for goals. Total goals over 2.75 is 186.
Well, our audience are backing Inter, all of them, actually. No one has confidence in this Liverpool. I guess it's right to not have any confidence, Tom, and I guess, or tell me your opinion about Salah's words.
I think it's awful timing from Mo Salah. I think it's exactly what he always does. He speaks to nobody for months, but then when he wants some money or he wants to move, he speaks to a random member of the press and sets everyone abuzz. I think that it's unprofessional. I think it's disrespectful. I think considering the money he's earning for sitting on his backside right now, he could keep his mouth shut and try and work with the rest of his teammates to overcome this terrible run of form. But, you know, Mo Salah's obviously a very selfish individual, and that's where we are. But I don't think he's the biggest problem, frankly. Like, he's been deservedly dropped. The issue is that 𝐿𝐴naté is a one-man kamikaze mission. That's the main issue right now, that every single game, 𝐿𝐴naté gives up a goal through idiocy. I've never liked 𝐿𝐴naté. I don't think he's particularly good. I think his confidence is shot. I think his judgment's appalling. And I think Virgil van Dijk, to Ronan's point, has clearly lost a step from his imperious best. The fullbacks aren't helping. There's no defensive midfield. And, I mean, that sliding tackle at 2-0 up against Leeds from 𝐿𝐴naté was moronic. That was just moronic. They were going nowhere, Leeds. Liverpool were cruising to a victory off the back of Szoboszlai and 𝐿𝐭𝐿 great performances. And he basically took a gun out of his holster and shot every one of his teammates in the foot. And that's been repeated so many times this season from Liverpool. And we can talk about Mark Gade till we're blue in the face. There are other defenders out there. Lots of people will play for Liverpool. Oh, what about 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲? A teenager wasn't going to come in and play every week for Liverpool. What are you talking about? Like, what they needed was a senior centre-half to play alongside Van Dijk, and they failed to do that. The manager clearly has fallen out with a few players. 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲 is one of them too. And so he's even playing 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲 under duress. So they've done this to themselves, Liverpool, and frankly, long may it continue. In terms of Inter, played really well in recent weeks. The 4-0 victory over Como this weekend was a surprise. Como are a good team, so to batter them for 4 is incredibly impressive. They've got the front line working well. They've got the defence working well. 𝗵𝐵𝐿 at centre-half has looked really good in recent weeks. I think 𝐶𝐴LHANOGLU has been one of the most underrated players in European football for a long, long time and has carried this team at so many moments this season. Lautaro Martinez looks in good form again. He goes in fits and starts. We're in a start right now for him, and they look really good. And I think that betting on this Liverpool team right now, as I keep learning in our Premier League previews, is error. So go for the Inter victory. I think at 2.27, it's worth it on its own. Struggling to see a Liverpool goal, and I think Inter win to 0 at 4.33 is a really good bet, considering they kept a clean sheet against Como, kept a clean sheet against Pisa, 1 goal conceded in 3. I think it's a really nice bet, actually, considering I'm just struggling to see any rhythm in this Liverpool attack. And again, Lautaro Martinez is in a start right now. Anytime goal scorer at 2.63 is worth a pick for me.
Well, important, of course, for Arne Slot. No one has confidence on him, but also Chivus, since, again, they lost to Napoli, they lost to Milan, so there is a big question mark about the big games, and this one is a big game, and this is a very young manager. So let's see what happens in this Inter-Liverpool. Both can be easily in the top 8. Our smart bet is going for total corners under 10.5 and total goals over 2.5. Inter 12 points, but they had a pretty nice schedule in this Champions League. Liverpool with 9. If they lose here, they will be out of the top 8, I think. Very likely. Next game is also very interesting one. PSV Atletico de Madrid. Both can be also in the top 8. Right now, both are in the playoff positions, and I'm surprised to see these odds. Atletico favorite 2.2, because I think we have to take in consideration this PSV, especially the home form, apart from the defeat against Royal Union. They are coming from big wins against Liverpool, against Napoli in the Eredivisie. They are cruising, and Atletico de Madrid have a problem when they travel. We've seen it in the Champions League. It's true that they had 2 tough games against Arsenal and Liverpool, Tom, but also in La Liga, they said goodbye to their options once again, losing 2 games in a row away, Bilbao and Barcelona, and it's always the same. It's the way they play away. They don't try to do anything. They just wait for the rival. It's a completely different mentality that they had in the Metropolitano.
But he has been doing that now for how many years? 5,000 years as manager of Atletico Madrid. Well, so this is not a surprise to any of us, right? That this is what they're going to do, and they'll do it again here against the PSV team who have impressed in the Champions League so far. I mean, the reason the odds are like this, because La Liga is one of the top 3 leagues in European football, and the Eredivisie is not. That's the reason for it, which makes 3.25 for a PSV win here well worth a punt, I think, because you've got a PSV team that have won big this season in the Champions League. Liverpool most notably. You've got a PSV team that have scored in pretty much every game this season, multiple goals in all but one of their last 5, including 4 at Anfield. They've got tremendous attacking options. I like 𝗵𝐵𝐿, I like 𝐻𝐴LHANOGLU. I think they're got great overlapping fullbacks as well. Serginho Dest on one side, back to somewhere near his best. So, look, PSV are a team that can score, that often score, that will score in this game. And then that means it's going to be a mid-game mindset for Atleti. I can absolutely see a draw here with both teams scoring, with every time Atleti get back in the game, they got ultra defensive, PSV score again, and then once again they come out offensive and are able to score because they have got better players. Make no mistake about that. Every single Atleti player, I think, is more or less better than its PSV counterpart, but the counter-attack sort of style, I think, only works at certain scorelines in the game, and I fancy PSV to score with regularity in this game. So these odds are ridiculous. 3.25, absolutely worth a punt if you're going to be taking this one. Look at the draw market, 4.2 as well. I think 1-1 at 6 looks quite nice, but you bundle 0-0 and 1-1. I don't think 0-0, but the odds come out quite nice at 6, so it just covers your bases in case the Atleti game plan does work and they're able to stop PSV scoring. I personally don't think they will, but both teams score in a draw seems quite nice. Atleti scoring a late goal and winning it by 2-1 also stands out as well. Again, if the Atleti defensive game plan works, we've seen it so many times across Simeone's 15, 16 years there. They nick a goal, they shut up shop, and they get the game won. Atleti and both teams to score 3.5. I'm struggling to see any scenario where both teams don't score in this game. So 1-1, 2-1 either way. But yeah, I think it'll be a fun game.
Well, and also Julian Alvarez is in really poor form.
Yeah, this is kind of what you expect sometimes from a Simeone team. There was kind of talk that I think we even mentioned them ourselves that Julian Alvarez looked like one of the best number 9s in the world at one stage, but that's kind of majorly fallen off, and that's the way Atleti have kind of majorly fallen off themselves, and especially away from home, like you said in the intro. They were two kind of disappointing performances against Barcelona and Bilbao. To just set up and wait to see what's going to happen, and defensively hope that they might hit them on the counter attack, but they don't have maybe the great determination, that kind of bite that Athletic teams of old have had, and maybe like Tom was saying, maybe Simeone has been there a bit too long. He fell short of calling them tactical dinosaur by 60 or 70 million years. But yeah, I think maybe this is what we're seeing, that there are managers that would say they're welcome, and I know he's been a colossus at the club and he's brought so many happy days to the club, but maybe it is time to look at something else. But for now, we'll have to look at them, maybe not get a result against PSV, because PSV are brilliant domestically, and I think that is, like Tom said, I think that is the reason for the odds we're seeing on the screen at the moment, is because PSV play in a weaker league and Atleti play in a better league. But yeah, on paper, the players that Atleti have are better, but PSV are just better managed at the moment. They're just more of a team at the moment. They are picking up results against everybody in most competitions. I know they have that blip, like you said, but yeah, this is a team that we should not count out. I think they will definitely get into the knockout stage, and we'll see where they go from there. And PSV, they are a team that kind of usually do better than the bookies are predicting, even in the Dutch league, because they've covered the Asian handicap line 60% of the time this season, and Atleti haven't even made it half the time. So because that, I had a look at the Asian handicap, and the Asian handicap line for this one is PSV Asian handicap plus a quarter is the one coming in at exactly 2. So we're going to bet on that, because PSV usually cover it and they're going to do it here. So if it's a draw, like Tom said, great news.
Well, we have to check here. I think the smart bet is a really good game here. Double chance for PSV, 1.76 is what they tell us. And also corners and also goals over 2.5. So a 2-1, for instance, for PSV would fit all these results. Both, again, with a win, they have hopes to be in the top 8. Next one is Royal Union Saint-Gilloise. Olympique Marseille, 6 points for the Belgian team, beating PSV and Galatasaray. 2 big surprises away. At home, they lost both against Inter and Newcastle. And 𝐿 are in bad form in Ligue 1, 2 defeats in a row. Also 6 points in this Champions League. Ronan, very tricky game, this one, because, okay, 𝐿 are the favorites, but this is not a reliable team, especially when they travel.
Yeah, this is a Belgian team that has kind of surprised, put in a couple of surprise results and kind of low-scoring surprise results. So that's why I'm looking that this could be a low-scoring game, because they've only scored a combined 13 goals between them, 8 for Marseille and 5 for Union Saint-Gilloise. So yeah, this is not a match that I'm going to be tuning into. I might see it on the goal show over on BT or TNT, whatever channel it is. I might see their goals as they go in on the highlights, but I will not be watching the full 90 minutes. 4 of Marseille's 8 goals, they came in the win over Ajax. 3 of Union's 5 goals came in their win over PSV. So yeah, they're not scoring in other matches. Over 2.5 goals has only happened in half of Union's games in all competitions this season. So even domestically, they're not scoring 3 goals a game. You have to go back 7 games to find a match where they actually had 3 goals in it. So for this one, I'm going for total goals under 3 at 185. So if it is 3 goals, then you'll get your money back at least. But yeah, it's not going to be a good one.
Both things to score for Roy, for 𝐿𝐵𝐵𝐴. Tom, are you watching this one?
I watch all Champions League games. It's the greatest competition in the world, and we should all be watching every minute of every game and betting with Oddspedia on every single game.
Well said.
Yes, we can all agree, and I will do anything for money. Look, I think this is going to be a tough game. I think Ronan's right. It's a tough game because both of these teams are quite classic in the sense that they just want to be in the game in the final 10. They're 𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐴 in a way, right? They just want to be in the game, hang in the game, and try and get something in the final 10. And Roberto De Zerbi has always sort of been a bit like that. All this talk of him being the next Guardiola was always a bit weird to me because he's not a sort of football-playing manager in that sense. What he is let's win. Let's make sure we win. And I can see him being a top manager in terms of like being at the very final end of the Champions League and having a huge budget. But I don't think his teams have ever been particularly watchable. And I think that he has got the best out of this bunch of utter bastards that play for Marseille. And he's getting some great stuff from Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang in this Indian summer of his career. They're clearly very well organised. They're clearly very tenacious, and they will be in this game. And every game come the final 10. Sometimes that pays off. Thinking about the Newcastle win, sometimes it doesn't. The Lille loss in Liga at the weekend. And it's similar for USG as well. I mean, the stat that Ronan's got was the same one I had in that there isn't many goals in their games. They certainly don't score too many. So pick a low-scoring winner here. For me, Marseille at 2.4 is quite nice. I think I'm maybe convinced by the Newcastle win. I think they'll get out of the group, and I think they'll be a horrible team to face in the knockout round. So Marseille win at 2.4, take that. Under 2.5 goals in the match is 2.2. A 1-0 Marseille win is 10. Screams 1-0 either way, and I would just shade for Marseille with the quality of finishes they have, and that's really, really nice. And as ever, plump for a group bet to cover your bets here. 1-0, 2-0, or 3-0 to Marseille. It's not going to be 3-0, but 1-0 or 2-0 with a bundled 3. That's just the way these bets come. That's 5. That's nice. I think Marseille win a tight, ugly game of football.
Both with 6 points, so it should be massive for Marseille. They started well the season, but it looks like they are going a little bit down. Marseille to win also. Josh is telling us, someone is saying that Royal Union Saint-Gilloise is a dangerous team. And the last game, probably another one not to tune in, is Tottenham Slavia Prague. Even if finally Tottenham won at home, finally, and even Xavi Simons scored. So a lot of odd things happened on Saturday in the north of London. In the Champions League, they are doing much better, 8 points. So everyone would bet on Spurs, Tom, considering they are playing at home, the odds, playing Slavia Prague. But this is Tottenham. This is a team that might be able to come here and lose. So I wouldn't touch these odds and this Tottenham, even if they are playing Slavia Prague, to be honest.
Oh, I don't know. I'm getting more confidence in Tottenham, I would say, because I think Thomas Frank has found it. He is a very, very good manager. And I think that he has made mistakes in his first 4 or 5 months at Spurs. But I think he has realised that midfield of Palhinha, Bentancur or Sarr is 2-1 pace to win home games in the Premier League and maybe in Europe as well. And I think the emergence of Archie Gray in central midfield has made a massive difference. I think the new reliance on the fit-again 𝗵𝗵𝗏 has made a massive difference. I think he's turned to youth, he's turned to dynamism, and he's turning away from the stodginess that has sort of been such a significant part of the opening spell of his time in charge of Tottenham. And make no mistake, that home win at the weekend against Brentford was huge. It's huge for Thomas Frank. Their away form is fine, if not great, in the Premier League this season. But the home crowd have seen so few home wins for a year. That's why the natives are restless, because it's the hangover from the nonsense of Postecoglou, and they've now had this pragmatist in who isn't going to go hell for leather to win home games. It's cost them against Fulham. It's cost them against Wolves. Didn't against Brentford this weekend. I know Brentford are pretty poor away, so, take that into it as well. But I think he's gone with energy. And I think if you've got 𝗵𝗏𝗏, and you've got Gray, and you've got Kolomuani, who's fit and looking quite sharp, actually, a bit like what we saw at the start of his loan spell at Juve last season, there's some really good benchmarks there for Tottenham. And I think that I always felt they would come good if given the chance. Thomas Frank would get them into the top 6 this season and get them into the last 16 of the Champions League. Still very much on course for that. And I think when they add a proper striker to this team, I know Richarlison's done quite well this season in the Premier League. if they can get Solanke back sooner rather than later, I think he's a really good forward for this team. I'm still quite high on Spurs. I think they'll do quite well in the second half of the season. And I think they'll beat Slavia Prague here, who, look, they can give anyone a game at home. As we've seen in the Champions League, they win most of their games domestically. They more than went toe-to-toe in the 0-0 draw with this poor-looking Athletic club in the last round. I tipped them to win that one. I was disappointed when they didn't. But look, away from home in the Champions League, nowhere near good enough to face Tottenham. And I can see Tottenham steamrollering Slavia Prague here. So Tottenham win 1.47. I think by at least 2 goals. I think a comfortable victory, 2-0 by scoring at least 2, maybe 3. I think they're going to win comfortably here. I quite like the look at Tottenham in this game.
A lot of confidence indeed in the Spurs. Trust Spurs to mess this up at home. Can't touch them. Or Patrick. Ronan, do you trust them?
I trust them more than I trust Slavia Prague. This is the way I'm going to frame this one. Because Slavia have scored just twice so far in the Champions League. And both of those were in the same game against both of them. So they haven't scored in any other match. They have lost twice to 0 already in the Champions League. Like Tom said, Tottenham won 2-0 at the weekend. They've won 2-0 matches 2-0 already in the Champions League. They drew 0-0 with Monaco. They have much better defence than Slavia Prague. Slavia Prague cannot score. So Tottenham are going to win. This is what's going to happen. Both teams are not going to score because Slavia are not going to score. Yeah, both teams score no is 181, and like Tom, I think Tottenham are going to win in 2-0. So yeah, 238. I just can't look past that. This is Tottenham going to win. We're rarely this confident for Tottenham, but they're just so much better than Slavia Prague. So just treat this one as an afterthought.
Okay, actually, also we have Darren telling us Spurs are not that bad. They just lack confidence at home. Let's see if the win against Brentford can kick them and improve. Our smart bet is going for double chances Slavia Prague, actually. 3 odds are 3 for this, and both teams to score, yes, in a high scoring game. Well, the opposite basically of what you just said, guys. This is it. Champions League on Tuesday. Later in the channel, you will have also the games on Wednesday. So just wrap this up. Remember that you have your tipster competitions going on in Oddspedia. In case you are new in the channel, in the video, check those out and you can win some money. And also we have Rivals where you can create your own tipster competition. Also some money to be made there completely for free. This is how we do things, for free for you. Let's go. Safe bet. Tom?
Tottenham. I'm going safe bet Tottenham to beat Slavia Prague. They are far too good for Slavia Prague and are going to beat them comfortably in the Champions League this week.
Oh my God. Are you going to the stadium or what is going on, Tom?
Yes, I'm going to be there for a lovely free dinner. And so I hope they win. So I have a nice evening.
It's about the food and the wine. It's always like this. And Ronan, your safe bet?
My safe bet is the safe bet. When you talk about the Bundesliga, it's Bayern Munich to win.
Yeah, this is safer. And the ACCA, Ronan?
Bayern Munich to win, Chelsea to score first, and Tottenham to win for a total of 323.
All right, Tom, Daniel Levy's friend, tell me your ACCA.
Well, I'm obviously putting Tottenham in it because they're going to beat Slavia Prague. Ronan's right as well. Bayern are safe as houses to win their game as well. Barca to beat Eintracht Frankfurt, I think, is a bit of a gimme. And I'm throwing in Monaco to beat Galatasaray as well, which is a bit daring, but it brings it to 4.14. And I like to have some fun with the ACCA, so I'm throwing them into it.
Okay, thank you, guys. Thanks for the analysis. See you this week. Enjoy the Champions League. Bye-bye.